Good morning, 8:39 coming up on 8:40. It is the Hometown Morning Show with Tori and Kyle in studio. Special guest, Sally Betters, who is a local author, and she is here to tell us all about her book, and I believe about being a certified life coach. I did not know that. I read further on your bio. Good morning, Sally, and welcome to the Hometown Morning Show with Tori and Kyle.
Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely, our pleasure. Tell me a little bit about, before we talk about your books, you're a certified life coach. What does that mean?
That means I went through several courses to really understand what it means to listen critically and to help people become unstuck in life and to move forward.
Do you find we're sticking? Are we sticking?
We're sticking.
We need to unstick.
Yes, we do.
And you seem very personable. And do you find as being a life coach, you need to be able to communicate really well with your clients?
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It's an important. I'm hearing a lot of coaching, a lot of life coaching facilities around town, and it must be very, very popular.
It is, and it's really a niche market. There's life coaches in athletics, nutrition.
I see.
Helping people find careers, various things.
Do you specialize in something?
Yes, it's for people who've experienced trauma.
Excellent. And this is the bridge that goes right into your books, correct?
Yes, it does.
Tell us a little bit about what's the name of your book.
The name of my book is called From Crisis to Compassion. And it's a story about a young girl who faces early childhood trauma and how it negatively impacts all of her decision making. And I wrote a companion workbook to go along with it.
Now, let me ask you a question. Is this a novel or is it nonfiction?
It's nonfiction.
It is a nonfiction. Okay,
Yes.
so it is about a person.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it's based on a true story. And there are so many components to it. This young girl faces early childhood sexual abuse. She's being violated by her alcoholic uncle, and she's told that she is his favorite and is their secret and that she must never tell. And so she's conflicted because she grows up in a home where she's taught to obey her elders and to not speak poorly against the family. And so she doesn't know how to handle this. And so there's a tremendous amount of stress. And finally, when she musters up the courage to share with her mother about age 9 or 10, she's not believed. So she continues to...
And why do you... Let me ask you that, because the story you're telling seems to be a common tale of not being believed. Why do you think children at age 9, 10 years old, when they finally get that courage, because it must be so hard to come forward, and then they come forward and they're disbelieved, or what do you suppose that's about?
I think there's a lot of reasons. One, I don't think in certain cultures children are respected, and so they don't have credibility. But the other is education. And that's such a great question that you ask, because on my website, www.sallybetters.com, I have free resources of warning sign documents to educate parents on the characteristics and symptoms of childhood sexual abuse, as well as abusive relationships. As these victims get older, they tend to go towards abusive relationships and looking for their protector. And also the other document I have on my website is the warning signs of the largest learning disability, which is dyslexia.
Is that prevalent in the Santa Clarita area? Do you know?
It's prevalent worldwide. It's 1 in 4. And I was a special needs tutor for 20 years, and that was my specialty.
Dyslexia is when you flip around words and numbers? Is that?
Yes, there's so many symptoms. That's one of them. Directionality is also.
What does that mean?
Directionality of being able to distinguish right from left, to be able to tell time on a clock, to be able to tie shoes appropriately because of the crossing over, doing long division, doing multiplication, all kinds of things that involve directionality that we don't think about.
Interesting.
Yes, and it never goes away. So we find coping mechanisms, but I was also a certified special needs tutor specializing in dyslexia, dysgraphia, and ADD in the Santa Clarita Valley for over 15 years.
So it's something we can learn to live with, but it's that prevalent. 1 in 4?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And the research shows it's basically different brain architecture, but the research also shows that you do need a research-based program, a curriculum to teach this, and a multisensory approach where different parts of the brain are utilized to capture and retain information. And I thoroughly enjoyed doing that in the Santa Clarita Valley.
Let's get back to your book.
Yes.
It is called From Crisis to Compassion.
Correct.
I see several different copies on the desk right now, different languages. Sally, this is awesome.
Yes, it's been an amazing whirlwind. It's been 15 months since I wrote the book, drafted the companion workbook. For people who want to work through some of the problems anonymously, they can do that. And then I had it translated into Spanish, and it came out last week on Amazon. All 4 books are currently on Amazon.com, so you can purchase them there. Something very important I want to make sure that I mention is that the proceeds of my books, speaking, and life coaching are going to Zoe International, which of course is housed in Newhall. It's an amazing organization that is fighting human trafficking worldwide. They're currently in Mexico, Australia, Japan, Thailand, and they're building a safe house off the 14 freeway. And we're very excited about that. So
we are extremely blessed to have you in the Santa Clarita Valley, Sally. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're
welcome.
welcome.
That's an amazing thing that you're doing. As far as the book, who do you recommend get these books and the workbook, the companion workbook that goes along with it? Is it something just for a victim, or do you think it's for someone, maybe a friend of a victim? I mean, is it one of those things where it can help the entire community surrounding a victim?
Oh, truly. Yes, it is for everyone, because as a culture, we have a broken culture, and we see that. It's evidenced everywhere with addictive behavior, with pornography and drugs and alcohol and social media. And people are running away from their deeply held pain. And so I wrote this book to raise awareness for people to understand that there is help, that we don't have to hide in the shadows of shame any longer, that we can step forward into the light of healing. And one of the things I'm also very excited about is Santa Clarita offers amazing resources. My husband and I attended the Sanctuary Church for several years, and there Pastor Marty Walker from the pulpit offered to pay for half tuition for anybody wanting to take grief recovery classes to process their grief. And childhood trauma is definitely a huge grief that has to be processed. Valencia Hills offers spiritual care classes through the direction of Dan Broyles. He does a phenomenal job in raising awareness of how to show compassion towards others and reach out and talk to them about various issues. A Real Life Church has Celebrate Recovery, and they have small groups specifically designed for childhood sexual abuse. The Santa Clarita Valley Pregnancy Center has a 12-week post-abortion class, and actually I took that personally, and I worked at the center as a staff member, and I was a coordinator for their post-abortion unit. And it was an incredible program that helps you process your grief, name your child, and ultimately have a funeral service at the end to really process all the variables that went into making that decision and to walk through the grief. So we don't turn to addictive behavior in trying to deal with this overwhelming shame and anxiety and depression that come from not processing it.
Do you find that with writing this book, children who have gone through some kind of trauma like this, do they have a tendency toward addictive behavior in general?
Yes.
Do you find that?
The statistics show that. I did see themes when I worked at the pregnancy center. I also saw that when I was as a special needs tutor, that children with learning disabilities are oftentimes have very low self-esteem, and so they engage in early sexual activity and oftentimes get pregnant earlier and then end up having abortions, have to deal with the dynamics of that experience. And so there are many variables that are mentioned in this book. And one of the things that's extremely prevalent is that people who've been abused are looking for their protector. And so they don't always have the best filter for healthy relationships. And so they will be attracted to abusive relationships because they're looking for somebody who shows them more of the Hollywood signs of what a protector looks like.
Right.
And isn't always somebody who has their best interest in mind. And then they get caught in the trap, in the web of a series of abusive relationships. And also, my first job out of college, out of UCLA, was at the Los Angeles Shelter for Battered Women. And so I saw the cycle of sexual abuse, that young boys in a family that saw their mothers being beaten up would in turn do that, not only to their sisters, but to their mother as well, and then would carry that over into their adult relationships.
Sally, absolutely fascinating. We're talking to Sally Betters, who is the author of this book called From Crisis to Compassion. It's in different languages. It has a workbook companion. Absolutely fascinating information from you, Sally. Unfortunately, our time's up, but I do want to know where we can get this book and any other help. Could you give me where we can get the book on Amazon?
On Amazon.com, you can get all 4 English version and workbook and Spanish version and workbook.
And if we want to get a hold of you personally, is it sallybetters.com?
It's www.sallybetters.com.
Sallybetters.com.
Yes.
Sally, it's been absolutely a pleasure having you in studio, and thank you so much for all that you do for our community. You're absolutely a blessing to us, so thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Home